What's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to talk about the Benchmade Griptilian, specifically the one with the thumb hole and the sheep's foot blade. This one is designed by Pardue, who has since departed. This particular one is M4 steel and G10, but you can also get the standard one, which is polymer plastic handles. One of the things I don't really like particularly about it. It does also have the thumb hole and the sheep's foot. S30V steel, not a big problem with that. Honestly, it's a really good, well-balanced stainless steel. And it goes for $144. But let's talk about this one specifically. So this particular knife is the limited edition from KnifeWorks. It has a 3.49-inch blade of M4 super steel. So it's a really tough steel. It is semi-stainless, maybe not as good a stainlessness as S30V. Holds an edge probably similarly long, but I think it's actually a whole lot easier to sharpen up. That's one of the good things about this one. It weighs 4.3 ounces, and this one priced at $187. So again, you can be looking at that $144 one. You're going to probably end up wanting to replace the scales with G10, unless you don't mind that plastic, or you're truly going to be throwing this around on the floor of a garage. So that wouldn't be a big problem. In terms of some comparisons or alternatives to this knife, I think on the kind of lower end budget, or more budgety end, but does have an axis lock, is this Millet knives made, but it was a mass drop, produced, if you will. This is called the Perpetua, TJ Schwartz design. It actually does have a hollow grind on it, and but it's kind of a good one. That particular knife went for about $110 at the time. I think you can still, you may have to get that on the secondary market, but I think you still should probably be able to get that one for around $100. So that would be kind of a lower budget and alternative that you may be looking for. The Spyderco Manix 2, I think, definitely has similar characteristics, similar price range. Taking a look at the blade stock of these two, yeah, they definitely behaved very similarly by my experience on this one. And Spyderco, this one is an M390. But you can also get, I think, an S30V standard one. This knife weighs 4.0 ounces and prices at in between the $150 and $170 range. So that would definitely be a little bit, less expensive option in terms of having that. It's just a ball bearing instead of a bar itself. But the true comparison really is going to be, it has to be really, in a sense, the namesake. This is the Douglas Ritter designed, the Hogue RSK MK1 Mark 1 Ritter survival knife, and it's kind of the benchmark, if you will, not Benchmade, for pricing and really the materials that you're going to get. That particular knife is actually in 20 CV steel, weighs 4.5 ounces. It prices at in between $159, or if you are going to get the Cerakoted, which this particular blade does have, this Benchmade, that's going to take you up to $179. So you're talking about very similar price range. The one thing I will say about the Ritter is it definitely is not quite as good of a slicer. It has just a slight, I think it's 0.05 inches in terms of thicker blade stock. But yeah, let's jump into this knife. In terms of some of the pros of it, it is fully ambidextrous. This is just great. You can completely mount left side tip up, right side tip up. It's, that's a lot good can be said about Benchmades, in that they do take care of left hand and right hand carry, as well as deployment. And of course, with the axis lock, you have so many different ways of deploying it. You can use the thumb stud, the thumb hole in this case. You can use the backside flick, works great with a Spidey flick. And you can just basically flick it out, pulling the axis bar lock back there. So that's one great thing about this. This knife also sliced very, very well. I was super impressed. Number one, when I saw it right out of the box, I was like, this is very thin blade stock. It's 0.11, which is pretty good for a fairly robust knife, of this quality. So that really, really like that. Benchmade Cerakote, for all the things that people might bitch and moan about Benchmade, their Cerakote is second to none. I can run it through. In fact, let me just go through an aluminum can right now, just to kind of show this Cerakote is so good on the Benchmades that it will leave lines, but those lines are not digging into the Cerakote. That's actually tearing off the material, in this case aluminum can, that you can, generally speaking, easily take that off. Sometimes that gets embedded in the Cerakote, but it's a good example of their Cerakote is great. And what is Cerakote good for? But opening packages too. Anything with adhesive, this one did not stick at all. Never really had to clean off the surface from any adhesive of opening boxes. All I had to do is just do that bottom edge. So good Cerakoting. I really always from Benchmade for my money. I can also say that nobody was high when they were producing this knife. There's no strange colors or color mismatches, or like you have a couple green back standoffs here or whatever, or they didn't blacken that out. They did it right. They went with the blackened hardware, clip, and blade on this one, and they have the jade green G10. So, like I said, nothing's wrong on this one in that sense, and I have to really give them props for nobody being stoned out of their minds when they were producing the colorways for this, as I so often see on Benchmade knives. They picked the right pocket clip. This pocket clip is the best. I don't know where it is in terms of the history of it, but I call this one the standard pocket clip from kind of way back. I think it's maybe also known as the Emerson one. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure I am. But this clip it's great in every sense. It has great clearance, great retention in the pocket, easy, one hand in, one hand out. So yeah, they did good on that. And then the ergonomic comfort of this one. The Griptilian, I mean, it's got grip in its name. It's fantastic. There I go. First fantastic. I don't know how far that is in, maybe 5-6 minutes in. So yeah, a lot of good going on for this knife. In terms of some of the cons, I will say the only really bad con for me is just after literally about 3 or 4 flips, the stop pin here just comes so loose. You might be able to just hear that in there. It was quite loose. It obviously firms up and you can't hear it. But, I am going to probably have to, for myself, if it's not super loose, I don't have a big problem. But the fact that one just jiggles and I can hear it even in my pocket. So the stop pin, not really good tolerances on that thing. Like I said, it just loosened up. I can put some, disassemble this thing, put a little bit of a Loctite in there, and then that'll probably take care of that. And just get rid of any gaps that it has there. The holes versus the thumb studs are not quite as good. I like them on the whole, but for some uses they're not as good. So for example, in gloves, I will say from a deployment perspective, holes are definitely harder to deploy. Then let's go ahead and bring out the Ritter RSK here. It's much easier to do thumb studs, obviously, just because you have this thick material. On the return, there's really no difference between the two, because you basically just have to get your hands onto the axis there. But yeah, on the deployment itself, the gloves, you just got to really be a lot more careful in there, especially if you kind of want to flick it out. Just easier to do if you had thumb studs. So that's, again, just a small con for the Spidey hole, or sorry, for the deployment hole, thumb hole, we'll call it that. Another one is this knife, this standard one, is not G10. The G10 is great, feels great in the hand, has just the right amount of texturing, but the standard one I just know has that polymer, which I don't know, I can't stand it. So for those that don't mind it, like I said, or if you want to scuff it up with some sandpaper, you can, but the standard one, I really don't like that it doesn't come with G10 by default. It's about time to. And then the last thing is, it's a con only insofar as I am so used to, when I see a spider hole, my first point of deployment is usually the spider flick, and I usually am going straight for a choil up there. This knife does not have a choil. This is not a Spyderco. like let's go ahead and pull out the Mannix and so many others. Like I said, I go right for the choil. So this is really a public service safety announcement. Is when you carry this knife after first couple days, just make sure you don't think, oh, it's a Spyderco, and then go right for a choil, because you will cut yourself. I did not, but I almost did. I definitely touched it and I was like, whoa, whoops, there's no choil there for my finger. So just got to watch out for that. Overall, I would actually say this is one of the truly great and timeless knives for a multitude of uses. Whether you open packages, this thing can go through boxes all day long. Yes, I did actually pry once with it. Didn't have a problem. May have loosened it the slightest bit, but with the axis locks anyway, since they're on bushings, or not bushings, but phosphor bronze washers instead of bearings, you always have that finite point of balance between, do I want to have any side to side play, or do I not want fall shut action? I'm right at the point where I don't have fall shut action, but there's likewise no play. So I'm in that school of thought. This is a classic. I'm glad I finally had a chance to get one, and I do overall prefer the one with the Spidey hole. Oh, sorry, the thumb hole. And but if you're going to be wearing gloves, that would be the one use case I would say definitely go for the one with the thumb studs, just because you're popping that out and you got gloves on, you're going to prefer those thumb studs. So hope this was of use, if not interesting, and I appreciate the like and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care.